Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Max, and today I'm very excited to be unboxing, installing, and reviewing a Yoke steering wheel for my Tesla Model 3. Yokes have always been a very controversial aspect to Tesla's design, and there is not a lot of gray area. Typically people either love them or they absolutely hate them and think they are a non-functional mess compared to a traditional steering wheel. Now, I personally always thought they were pretty iconic to Tesla's image and the overall design of the car. It does really give the car a much more modern, futuristic look and definitely adds to the overall minimalistic appeal to that open space dash. And honestly, if these were available for delivery when I ordered my Model 3, I probably would have had one added to the car. But sadly, they're only available on the Tesla Model X and the Model S right now, so you really can't get one unless, of course, you go to a third party. That's where Hansshow comes in. They have created a one-to-one replica of the exact same yoke, design, and feel as you'd experience if you got one factory made on your S or your X. And this one's designed to go on either your Model 3 or your Model Y. It's actually even cheaper than what it would be for Tesla to just simply install yoke on your S or your X. So that's also something to keep in mind, that it is a cheaper wheel than even Tesla offers. Hansshow did provide this yoke for me to do a review on, so first of all, thank you so much for that, Hansshow. And they also did provide me with a discount code, especially for my viewers. So if you enter the code Maxwell at checkout, you get 22% off your entire order. And they don't just sell yokes, they sell a ton of different Tesla accessories. They were actually the ones that provided me that 8.6-inch HD display that I installed in the rear of my car just a few weeks ago. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link that now. My family is absolutely loving having that in the car. But yeah, like I said, they have a ton of different accessories on their site and a ton of different offerings, so definitely worth checking them out. And make sure you use my discount code to get the best possible deal. As always, I'll include links in the description below if you're interested in this or any of their products. All right, with that, let's get into the unboxing and then get this installed on the car. Alright, so here we have the box that the yoke wheel comes with. You can see they have some nice descriptions right on the outside that tells you exactly what you're getting. So let's just jump right into the unboxing and see what this thing looks like. Right on the top here we have a little piece of paperwork from Hansshow, which has QR codes on it, which will take us to various instruction manuals and install videos to help us with this install. And then wrapped up in the Hansshow bag, we have the yoke itself with even more protective wrapping all around it to keep it safe during shipment, which is super nice since this is made out of leather and you really don't want it scratched or damaged if it's going in your car. We'll take this piece off first. You see we have an airbag cover here in the Napa black leather, and then taking this off, we reveal the rest of the yoke, which feels incredible in my hand. All the buttons in the leather feel itself match the factory standard Tesla wheel. This is the Napa black leather, but they do sell these in a couple different styles. I went with Napa black to match the existing Tesla aesthetic, but you can get these in white, you can get these in satin black, and you can actually choose what type of airbag cover you want. You don't have to get the same color. I could have gone black with white or black with another type of logo on it that says Tesla, much like the Model 3 Highland look, but I chose to stay with the classic Tesla turbine logo. But honestly, this thing feels great, and I'm really interested to see what this is gonna be like once I get it on the car. Other than the yoke itself, we have a bag of hardware that will help us out with the install. Nothing else in the box. But yeah, very excited to get this on the car. As controversial as the yokes have been in terms of use, I've always really liked the look of it and been interested to see what it'd be like driving one. Of course, Tesla does not offer these on the Model 3 as an optional upgrade. They only come on the S or the X. So I'm really excited to get that exact wheel on my Model 3 and give it a try. So let's move on to the install and see how that goes, and then see how this works out in practice. So to put this wheel together, you're gonna need a few things. You're gonna need a socket wrench with an H10 socket adapter, a Phillips screwdriver, some additional small screwdrivers, as well as the included tools that Hansshow includes with the vehicle setup. Before you start the install, go onto your infotainment display and make sure your vehicle's powered off so you don't have any bad connections while unplugging or plugging in wires. The first thing that you're gonna do is push in the tool that's provided into the holes along the sides of your factory steering wheel. These will allow the airbag to disconnect. And honestly, this is probably one of the more tedious parts of the process since there are very small pins you're trying to make contact with and dislodge. and there's a lot of space to move around in there. Definitely be patient here. I think this took me 10 to 20 minutes to get, and what I actually ended up doing to get it to work is getting a small Allen wrench and feeding it into the other side, so I was pressing both pins simultaneously. After working at this a bit, I was finally able to get the airbag to pop off, but again, just be patient and look for a slight resistance when you're pushing it in. That's when you know you're hitting the right thing, and eventually you'll hear a snap and that airbag will come loose. From here, lift the airbag assembly upward and away, and you'll see it has 2 wires protruding from it connecting to the main steering wheel. Now, to unplug these connections, I actually ended up using a pair of needle nose pliers and made this process a lot easier. With those wires disconnected, carefully pull away the full airbag and set it safely to the side. From here, you're going to use your socket wrench and your H10 socket to unscrew the large screw that is holding the wheel in place. You'll want to use your legs to help keep the wheel in place as you're going through this process, and it definitely takes quite a bit of muscle, but once I put my full weight into it, I was able to get this screw loose and fully wrench it off. Once that screw is completely removed, you'll be able to pull the wheel away, rock the wheel to the left and right to get it loose, and then pull it straight away from its connecting area. At this point, you can put the wheel back into place to where your previous wheel was and replace that large screw that you socketed out. Make sure that when you press this into place, it is perfectly aligned with the plastic bracket and back. Once aligned, replace your screw and tighten it back with the same amount of force that you used to take it off. You do not want this to come loose during drives, so you really want to put a lot of muscle to ensure that this is just as snug as before you removed it. Now, this next step is probably the most demanding and intimidating aspect of the install. You have to partially disassemble your original factory wheel to remove the chip that's going to allow the new wheel to interface with all the Tesla controls. This is also where, depending on the wheel you have, your process will differ. For me personally, the directions that came in the box, actually for a different wheel than what I had, but the directions on the website were a lot closer to what I had to do to get this uninstalled. So for my process, I started by removing 4 screws from the inside of the steering wheel. This allowed me to pop out and pry loose the paneling that protects all the inside wiring and connections to the original factory wheel. Once that's exposed, you unscrew the control box plug that's towards the bottom of the wheel, and then disconnect the blue wire that runs into that control box. Now, this box itself is too large to fit in the yoke that you've just been sent, so you'll want to unscrew that box and remove the circuit board from that plastic cover. Do this extremely carefully, as you don't want to damage any of the components. Once you have the circuit board free, take it and place it into the plastic chassis that is provided by Hansshow. This chassis is made small enough to fit into your new yoke steering wheel. Once this is ready to go, plug in the blue wiring harness that's already in the yoke to connect the circuit board to the wheel's controls, and fit it nicely into the bottom of the yoke wheel well. For me, I had to disconnect the heating wire connector to get that stored properly in the bottom to make enough space, so do not be afraid to disconnect certain connections to get this to where it needs to be. Just ensure that you do connect those back in once you're finished. With that, pick back up your airbag and plug in the 2 wires that run from that to the car. The final step here is to align the airbag with the 3 holes it snaps into and press it firmly into place. When you do this, your car horn should immediately start beeping, and if at this point your infotainment display has powered back up, you should see that all your buttons are working correctly. I would potentially recommend that before you snap this back into place, you do fiddle with the buttons on the wheel. That will ensure that you're actually getting a good connection and are not fumbling around, taking the airbag off again to try to get those connections in the correct place. You definitely want to make sure it's working correctly before you snap everything back together. And yeah, after all that, and with the sun clearly setting in my video, the yoke was on and I had finally finished the install. And with it in place and working, here's a look of what it looked like in practice. So let's start by reviewing the look of the yoke compared to the basic wheel that Tesla provides. I personally think this has a great futuristic look, and compared to the original style, it just fits into that minimalistic aesthetic that you're really getting from the Tesla and that makes them such popular vehicles design-wise. It looks sleek and just fits in incredibly well. I was curious what people would think about this when they saw me driving with it, but all those who I've taken out in the car can't stop talking about how cool the design is. My kids even call it the spaceship wheel, which is pretty entertaining to hear. I do think the design difference is especially noticeable if you're using FSD or self-park. With the yoke, there's no doubt that thing's steering itself with the way it swings around. It really adds the impact of having a self-driving car and the feel that it gives you. So functionality wise is where the experience is really going to be different than your standard wheel. and some people aren't going to want to make the adjustment. There's no way around the fact that with a yoke, you no longer have that big bar across the top to grab a hold of. Now, you do have those little nubs on the side which do give you something to leverage against, but not being able to simply reach up and grab that is definitely a different experience. I in particular noticed this when I was backing up, when you're blindly reaching for your wheel, that I instinctively reach for the top of the wheel, and with the yoke, that's just not there. Now, that being said, about 2 drives that were 15 minutes long was all it really took for me to get used to this new wheel. It definitely is intimidating, but after a little while behind it, it becomes second nature, just like anything else within your vehicle. So if you do like the look and you like the feel of something like this, do not be intimidated by the fact that you're gonna have to relearn certain aspects of the way you drive, because it's really not that different, and it's something that will become second nature incredibly fast. And the fact of the matter is, now that I am used to it, I actually prefer it compared to my normal steering wheel on my other car. It definitely gives the car a much more sporty feel, and for whatever reason, the way you're holding onto it does make the car kind of feel faster. I very easily adapted to the hand placement and found all sorts of new ways to do everything that I was used to doing on a standard wheel. And yeah, I really have come to enjoy the look and feel of this, especially the way it feels when I'm driving with it. I will say, because the yoke is significantly wider than a typical wheel, I did have to make some adjustments to both my leg placement in the car and the position of the wheel to avoid it actually bumping into the top of my leg when I was making sharper turns. That probably more has to do with the orientation of the wheel that I had to begin with and the way that I sit when I'm in the car, but just something to be aware of, that you might have to make some adjustments there as well. As far as build quality is concerned, the thing is designed incredibly well. The stitching on the leather is great, it feels great in your hands, and it honestly feels like a factory part. It doesn't feel like it's built by a third party and does not feel cheap. All the buttons on the wheel work perfectly and don't just look, but also have the feel when you're clicking them or you're dialing them. Overall, the thing is incredibly impressive and really has a luxury feel to it that I think even trumps the one that comes on the car to begin with. So honestly, I think the biggest leap for most buyers is gonna be the install. This was definitely the most demanding thing I've installed so far, and it was intimidating, the thought of actually removing a steering wheel from my vehicle and putting another one on. It's not a small task, and while intimidating, a lot of it wasn't incredibly difficult, more so just a little bit tedious. Getting the airbag out was definitely one of the harder parts. Hitting those pins to get that to pop out, that was difficult, but once that comes out, disassembling the rest of it wasn't too bad. Now, I will say taking apart the OEM wheel and removing that chip was a bit scary, because you never want to break anything, you never want to avoid any warranties, and you risk doing all of that when you take something apart in your car to that level. So that was definitely a more advanced process. Not difficult, just more high stakes. So definitely read the directions to figure out what you have to take apart and what you have to be careful of before commencing this install. But with all that said, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a mechanic, and I was able to figure out how to do this and do it in probably about an hour. So I would say that if you're patient and if this is a look that you want, you don't have to pay someone hundreds of dollars to install one of these on your car, it is absolutely doable. And I, for one, think it's 100% worth it. Keep in mind, Tesla charges $1,000 to get one of these on your Model S or your Model X, and you can buy basically the same thing from Hansshow for under $500. Right now it's on sale for $429, and if you use my discount code, you get an additional 22% off on top of that, so it's really not that bad of a price if this is something you wanted, especially compared to the Tesla price. Hansshow also gives you the ability to customize this. You can get it not just in different types of colors, but you can get different Tesla logos on your airbag cover, and you can also get it ordered with different materials. So there's a lot of customization that you get that you would not get if you ordered this through Tesla, all at a more affordable price. So yeah, all that to say that if you're like me and you really wanted a yoke on your Tesla, but you had a Model 3 or a Model Y and you couldn't get one, I definitely recommend checking out this product from Hansshow and taking one of these yokes for a spin. But yeah, that's all I had to talk about today. If you did like this video and you want to see more, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to see more. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time,